It's my honor to just introduce to you very shortly our guest speaker for tonight. You can call him many things, many things. You can call him an author, TV presenter, a youth developer, an extreme adventurer, a conservationist, a father, and we're very lucky that we can call him a friend of the My School, My Village, My Planet program. Braam, I first heard about Braam when I heard that a South African was the first in the world to run the entire length of the Great Wall of China. Not even the Chinese had tried it. There's a good reason for that. It's not a good idea. And then Braam went on to run the entire coastline of South Africa because it's in the shape of a smile. And he was raising funds for Operation Smile. Then Braam was invited to represent South Africa in the centenary race to the South Pole, where, because we all know Cape Townians ski a lot, hey? We ski in the snow all the time. We're very, very proficient at that. And Braam lives close to Table Mountain. And so obviously he said, yes, of course he will ski all the way to Antarctica. Yes, that's a great idea. And so he represented our country there. And then after that, Braam decided, he was bored, and he really wanted to go to Rio. He probably couldn't get a ticket, so he thought he would row there, all the way across the ocean in a little boat. So Braam does very strange things. His name is Malherbe, and his claim is op die Mal. And what you will find is that Braam is an ordinary man, and he's doing extraordinary things because he has a deep passion for youth, a deep passion for our precious planet, and he uses strange ways to draw attention to the things that are very important in our lives. So, Braam, over to you.
Okay, so every year, firstly, a huge welcome, and what a great audience. You are South Africa's leaders. You make the kids the future leaders. Without you, there is no hope, and hope is a huge word. It's a massive word. Is this thing on? Yeah, now it is. So but why? Not because I'm Malherbe. Okay. It's because every one of us in this room, every one of us on this planet has something called ego. But if you find a purpose, which most people in this room already have, is to find a purpose beyond your ego. Doesn't matter what religion you are, Hindu, agnostic, atheist, Christian, Jewish, doesn't matter. I respect your right to have a different view to mine. And that word, respect. So for me, find a purpose beyond ego. There's an incredible definition, and I don't know where it comes from, so apologies, on the word hell. Hell is arriving at the end of your life and meeting the person you could have been. You don't want to be in that place, and nor will I. Now, I do every year a camp at my little log cabin in the Cedarburg for Durbanville Kinderhuis, Durbanville Children's Home. Now, if you want hope for this country, like Fazika, like this, I had goosebumps sitting there. Grade 12, with voices that I could not even dream of, gives me hope for this nation. And we dare not give up that hope. We dare not. It's all we have. And if any country in this world, you think it's cool in Germany, I go there a lot. You think it's cool in Holland, or Brisbane, or Sydney. They've got just as many problems as us, and they moan even more. So for me, I would like to extend a challenge to you this evening. And the challenge might sound simple, but it's not easy. It's the challenge to change. Nature evolves because it adapts to its environment. It changes. We are facing the largest crisis ever on this planet. And you as teachers, learners, educators, and real leaders, we have no future if we don't have clean air. We don't have a future if we don't have clean water, and we've just gone through that, haven't we? We don't have a future if we don't have conservation. And I'm not talking about just rhinos or the big five. I'm talking about the honeybees. Without the honeybees pollinating, they are 80% pollinators of everything we eat on this earth. Everything. So if you do eat meat, that sheep had to eat a plant. It was pollinated. So conservation. And the final one, energy. In no particular order. We cannot live on carbon emissions any longer and expect our children to live out their lives at our age. I've studied this for 23 years. I do know what I'm talking about. So my challenge to you is this. You're all grown adults. You're all esteemed people. But my challenge is you go and change something in your own life that betters you. Not the kids, you. Because if you do that, it ricochets on the children. No doubt. So every year I take, for the last 5 years, to my little log cabin in the Cederberg, a group of 12 learners from, I don't know if you know of them, Durban Kundays, Durban Children's Home. And those 12 leaders, there's 12 homes or houses in the complex. And the teachers, or they call them the mothers and the fathers of each home. They then put a vote to the class. Who is your team leader in your school? And I take them on a 4-day camp in the mountains, into nature. You see, again, I don't want to come from a religious perspective. I will mention certain quotes that are both in the Quran and in the Bible, and indeed sit with all of us. Nature is where I find my God. Being in nature. Certain schools do not believe in outdoor education. I'm telling you, it changes lives like you cannot believe in a few days. I started the Bosch Trek. I was at Rondebosch Boys High, very fortunate, privileged school. And every year they go to the Matroosberg and they spend 10 days and they hike. And they have to spend 36 hours on their own before they come down this mountain. And I'm going to get teary now. By the way, there's nothing wrong with that, because I'm going to come back to that. They come out of the mountains, you see them coming in their teams with their staffs. And only the dads, very chauvinistic, are allowed to be there, because it's boys to men. It's a boys' school. And the fathers are lining this dirt road, and as these kids come down, they start clapping, like the slow clap we did for this wonderful school and this wonderful choir. And they clap, and we all start crying. And then I address them for 10 minutes in the hall. And a lot of those kids from this privileged school did not want to go. And when I was asked by Tracy Stark, the psychologist in the school, to please come and address them and ask them why, you know what the main reason was? There's no technology. You cannot feel change unless you sit quietly with yourself in your heart. You cannot. And nature, for free, gives us that opportunity. This, what I'm doing now. How often do we acknowledge that? For free, what nature gives us. It changes my life. These kids from Durban Kundays change my life. These kids are wards of the state. They have been removed by law from their parents. Not because they are bad, but because the parents were bad. From rape to all sorts of things, to murder in certain, and we are all friends today. And that word hope that was mentioned earlier, if we give up hope, what have we got? Now, I'm an honorary game ranger for South African National Parks and the very proud ambassador for my school, my village, my planet. For the last, I think, 5 years. And Peter Twine and myself and others, we were the founder members of one. Please choose your school. Whatever you choose. Remember what Aline said, you can have up to 3 beneficiaries on that swipe. What Aline didn't mention, and I keep reminding her, is when you swipe, you are not paying a cent. So if you're spending 500 Rand, in my case 50 Rand, okay, so, but when I swipe, a percentage does not come off my spend. Woolworths pay it on your behalf. So we started, Peter, myself and others, the My Planet Rhino Fund. What an indictment on humanity, and indeed every South African, if we have the big 4, not the big 5. So we have to change. We had a meeting yesterday in Pretoria on exactly this topic. We have a panel of interested and affected parties, from private rhino owners who own 1/3 of the rhino herd of South Africa, South African national parks, etc., etc. So now we're doing 180,000 Rand a month. From 37 Rand, May 2011, to 180,000 Rand a month. And when I say we, I mean we. A ripple effect, one spot, can change the world. And I'm going to read this because my eyesight is terrible. I'm going to come to this later, actually. It's more appropriate. It's an example of DOT. I usually have a T-shirt that says D-O-T. Do one thing for the earth. DOT. Do one thing. Okay, so I'm going to start my presentation. You thought that was the start, huh? Okay. Team. And we are indeed a team of humanity. And as you know, many of you, the acronym of team is together everyone achieves more. And then people say there's no I in team. You've heard that? I disagree. That's mine. You can use it. It's for free. Use that. What is the I? It is you. It is the individual. Everyone sitting in this room looks different to the person sitting next to them. Thank goodness. Otherwise, I would be going, meh, because I don't know who you are. Okay. But it is the individual. What is the individual talent, skill that you have that makes the difference? To your school, to your business. But I want to emphasize a very important point. It's not just this I, it's this I as well. It's combining the two. I had a question last evening from a lady who was in tears, and she'd lost certain members of the family, and she said, how can I possibly make a difference? When, and she used this example, when there's a child that is miserable and down and thinks of suicide and so on, is 15 years old. I said, you go up to Oliver and you say, yes, I'm singling you out. Do you want to say something? You want to say hello?
I didn't know you said my name.
I know everyone's name because you've all got tags. Everyone says, how do you know my name? I said, I can read it, Jackie. Okay. So, I do schools on behalf of my school, my village, my planet, for free, predominantly high schools. I want to emphasize that because the littlies don't have the concentration span. Okay, but I will still do that. Anyway, so this lady last evening, how do I change someone like that? I said, you go, and Oliver, I'm going to use you again. you go to them personally, and you talk to them personally, and you ask them what their problem is personally. And it's hard, because you're dealing with another 30, 40 people. But when you save that one life, I've lost one brother to heroin, another murdered, my mother's dead, my father's dead, I'm the eldest of 5 kids, I have one son. He's the greatest gift I've ever been given in my life. His name is Benjamin. And we are close like this, because we did this. Daniel, you see I know your name. Okay. No, but seriously. We talk together, and you know where we talk? In nature. Helene mentioned I live on Table Mountain. I live in the only home on top of Signal Hill. No, you are not invited for a visit or a braai. Okay? But it's also a scout camp since the Second World War for over 50 years. And I have a bunkhouse on the property where I can take 22 kids who will arrive tomorrow, pretty much every weekend. And we talk in nature around a fire or whatever. So nature changes because it evolves. It doesn't necessarily choose to. You know what a catfish is? A catfish, a barbel? It took thousands of years for it to evolve, to be able to get out when the mud is this thick, fill its belly full of water, and use its pectoral fins, the side fins, to walk over the land and bury itself through the summer months. And when the rains come again, the water is used, and it comes out and it continues. That is evolution. Do we evolve as people, do you think? Sadly, very few of us do. We expect to change nature to suit us, not the other way round. And the best thing you can ever teach your kids is how do you fit in with nature and sustain a very, very fragile, and I mean this, a very fragile planet that is on the brink of disaster. And I'm being melodramatic on purpose. We are on the brink of disaster. We're sitting with how many people now? Gordon, you see, it's easy.
Just over 7 billion.
Just over 7.2, 7.3 billion people. I don't know if any of you remember the late Dr. Ian Player. He was my mentor. And he took me on a wilderness leadership trail in 1975. I was 17 years old. In the Umfolozi Game Reserve. And part of our lunch pack was a hard-boiled egg. And he peeled the egg and he said, before you crack it on your head, what part of this egg, if it was the earth, would constitute the air we breathe? And us young boys, there were 10 of us, we all said, but I think you would probably share the shell. And he said, no. And he peeled the shell away, and you know underneath is that very fine membrane. He said, that is how fragile the planet is. Then came the challenge, which I give to all of you. He said, what are you going to, now I was in my matric year, and I was an average, below average student actually. He said, what are you going to do to be an asset to the planet? An asset to the planet, a barter or for less. He said, because if you're not an asset, by default, you are a liability. And he used an example of an impala. He said, if the leopard gets the impala and scratches it, but the impala gets away, it gets a tick infection because of the blood. It weakens it, and it threatens the entire herd. And it gets taken out of the system. Ladies and gentlemen, we are not exempt from that system. And we need to understand that, and we need to be passing that on to our children. Stop the moaning. It's not Zuma's fault, what it was. But, okay. But is that going to fix the problem? No. Are these guys in Dubai going to bring all our money back? No. If they do, can you share some of it with me? Okay. Okay, so I'm going to concentrate on this crazy row I did going across the ocean. You're going to see a clip now. I won't be saying anything. We rode 2 hours on, 2 hours off, 2 hours on, 2 hours off, 24/7 for 92 days, through the day, through the night. That's us leaving Cape Town. My partner was going to be Peter van Ketz, who did the South Pole with me. This is Wayne Robertson, who's a boat builder and deserves a very proud mention from me. He was modifying the boat because Pete couldn't go anymore for legitimate reasons. And I found him a week before the start, married. Cindy, his wife, at that stage, Willow was 6 years old. And I said, why don't you go with me? Stupid question. He phones me the next morning, he says, I'm in. He rode twice, on Sikufle, which is like a mirror. Okay? And here we're heading off to Rio. It's the first time he's rowing in his life.
Sure.
So when you saw Wayne go overboard, what had happened, you have a parachute anchor. It's massive. It's from the end of that screen to here, because the sea is 5 kilometers deep. So all swells and high waves are because they are wind driven. So deep down below it's calm. And that parachute anchor holds your bow or the nose of your vessel into the swell. Because if you're sideways, over you go, which we did 4 times. So what I was doing there, I was holding the rope as far as I could pull it in around one of the spars or oars. And when Wayne went over to untangle the whole thing and pull it in. And when he says, oh, it's the day after the storm, that night, 4 a.m., my fault, had not closed the hatch properly. It had 2 latches. And the boat rolled over. And the water poured in. It's supposed to self-right immediately. But it didn't because of the water and the weight. And I just said to myself, I'm not losing my son like this. So we felt the swell pushing like this. So we said, let's push our backs this way to assist it. And it righted the boat. I'm very fortunate to be alive. And I mean that very sincerely. You used the word humility earlier. Being humble. That's basically your daily occurrence. It doesn't get better. And Wayne used gloves. His hands were worse than mine because you sweat in the glove as well. That's your average day. So when you saw me earlier pumping this machine, that is desalinating seawater into fresh water. It takes about 50 minutes to get 2 liters. But we had a big water maker called a Schenker, which is from Mlinteni.
Yes.
Mlinteni. Okay. To here wide, it's got 2 big deep cycle batteries. We have solar panels on the vessel, which are they're supposed to charge these batteries. We were supposed to be in the heat of summer. That was the average day. Literally. So we didn't have charge. So when I was doing that pumping, what I was actually saying, something along the lines of I'm having a bad hair day. Okay. And then you'll see Wayne pumping. And he's saying, hey, dude, check my abs. And I says, they ain't abs, they ribs. And the very next day, the water pump broke. Hang on. There, it snapped. We had 9 liters left in storage. We phoned on the satellite phone our weather guru, Peter, the weatherman at UCT, very good friend. And he said, look, I'm looking at the synoptic chart. He says, you've got minimum 2 weeks before you're going to get rain. Or sun, actually. We wanted sun. We had 9 liters, so we went down to 400 mils per day, which you put a mineral in there because it demineralizes the water. 400 mils a day, and we carried on rowing. I do not, ladies and gentlemen, believe in coincidence. I believe in that famous saying, fortune favors the brave. And I'm not brave. I'm an ordinary guy driven with purpose. You are not ordinary people. You're ordinary people, but you're driven with purpose, and all you add to the word ordinary is extra. That's all you do. And we had 2 days left of water, and 4 mils a day, it's nothing. The sun came out. That is not coincidence. That is God's help, in my view. That's just Wayne, a nice picture of him rowing in the moonlight. It looks nice. It doesn't feel nice. Kom nou. Okay, guess where we are? So, in 8,100, can you see where we are on the side? Yeah. I wish we were a heck of a drone.
Your drone or that?
No, theirs. Yeah, so some of these, so we saw, and I'm not joking, in 8,100 kilometers, out of that, 5,000 kilometers, not a whale, not a fish, and I dive under the boat every day, nothing, not an albatross, no life, no ships, no yachts, nothing. Because they don't go across the Atlantic, they come around Cape Horn, Cape Gullah, sorry, and they go up through Panama or into the Mediterranean. There's nothing to go to Rio for except oil. So these guys are so big that they literally, many of them can't get into port. So they actually transfer oil from rig to rig. So as you get to the coastline of Brazil, we had 27 near collisions. And are you scared? You're very stupid if you're not. Now you've got to get the guy on AIS. AIS stands for Automatic Information System. And it's the best and worst sound in the world. The best sound is beep, 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 beep. And the worst sound is beep, 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 beep. And our AIS goes off when we have our radar hits them or they hit us. Well, they hit us, we're dead, we're gone. We had 27 near collisions on the coast of Brazil, just when we thought this is all over. And then they want to have a conversation with you. What are you guys doing out here? I said, listen, we don't have a sail, so we eventually just got it wrapped. We said, no sail, no motor, drifting, please avoid. Pan, 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 pan. Pan, pan is one of Mayday. Mayday, you're going to die, basically. And then they say, hold your course, we'll do our best. So these guys are moving between 15 and 20 knots. Okay, we are moving at about 3 knots. Now we've only got one seat, because when we rolled, the one seat ripped out. And you can't outrow that guy. Not that, basically to answer your question, sir, they changed their fleet. Is it fleet, is the right word? By helicopter. And they refueled from the west coast, the east coast of Brazil is littered with oil rigs. Littered. And you're dodging these things. But the thing of when they want to have a conversation and the guy's Chinese, you know. What you doing here? And if anyone here knows Chinese, I'll say, have you got any piju? Piju means beer. Okay. Because with training, you don't drink. 3 to 6 months before, 3 to 6 months after. Okay, so we had those collisions. That is this is 150 feet wide. We are 3.8 meters. So, on we go. So this clip, I'm not going to say a word. This is a Dutch freighter heading to Rio. I don't know why. He knew our sponsor, the sponsor of our boat. Our boat's name was Mondoro, which is a game reserve in the in Welgevonden Game Reserve, which means spirit of the young lion. And he took this, he's looking for us, he can't find us. We were about 300 meters to his port side, which is the left. Okay? He couldn't see us. We met him in Rio, and this is what he gave us. This gives you a size of sea at 40 feet. In Afrikaans sal hulle sê knyp. So, and we're still friends today. They couldn't film us, they couldn't see us. They saw us on the radar. Okay, so I'll go to this screen first. What looks like this big boat over here. Does this laser thing work? No. No. Okay, we're the big boat.
Got it the wrong direction.
We're trying to get away from these guys. It's only 50 meters deep. You can see there? Yeah. I'll go to that screen now. The blue guys missed us. Thank God. This guy is 8 minutes to collision. And there's nothing you can do except ask them to move. They can do 1 degree in 10 minutes. 1 degree, they'll pass us by 100 meters. 50 meters deep. We're very close to the coastline of Brazil, thinking it's all over. We're this big guy. That guy, the blue guy's passed us. The red guy's 8 minutes to collision. And if he doesn't move, we are dead. Okay, so now, here's the fun part. Well, it's fun now, it wasn't then. So my public relations lady, Aussie, now we've just done 8,998 kilos. We had 2 kilos to go to the coastline of Rio, to the yacht club. And she gets me, now you're on normal phone because you've got international roaming. And she says, you have to wait, we're not ready. Okay. Sounds like South Africa. I heard this lady say. Cheryl said that. So we pull into this little cove called Papagaios. It's Papagaios is Parrot Island. Little chain anchor. And she says, I said, what do you mean you're not ready? No, it's a surprise. Just wait. Be patient. I said, what? I've been patient for 92 days. And then she says, okay, we're ready. Start rowing. And you don't just suddenly start rowing. You've got to pull up the anchor. You've got to get the oars out. You can see they're lashed on. It's a whole issue. But what she had done, with the help of others, was for me a miracle. She got the mayor of Rio, the South African ambassador to Brazil, and his wife. 23, I think it was. You know those outrigger Hawaiian boats where they've got those things? You'll see them now. All coming out to greet us for the last 2 Ks. And about 20 or 30 other ships or boats coming to greet us, to welcome us. And that's what you're going to see now. And they're all festooned, Brazilians with South African flags. I'll have one picture after this clip, and then I'm going to ask you to listen to the words here really carefully. They resonate with every one of us in this room. They really, really do. Especially the last sentence. And I'm going to say what it is now. I might only have one match, but I can make an explosion. Okay, so this is us now. Wayne is rowing. How come there's only one seat? Because he designed a board this big to catch fish so we could have sushi. We never caught a single fish. We never saw a single fish. Not a whale, not a dolphin, not an albatross, nothing. Until we got to the coastline. So this is the last clip, and then you'll see the best South African flag you'll ever see in your life. Now, what's going on now? But I normally go backwards. So it's still going backwards. Yeah, but if I go the other way. See, it's only got forward and back here. You see what's happening there? So that's forward and that's back. Now I want to go forward, not backwards.
Looks like you got it now. You got it.
No, he's still showing his ribs.
Keep going. You go.
Okay,
You got it.
thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the last clip, folks. I truly hope when you see that South African flag at the end that you're proud of it. And I want to say that I'm so proud of you and what an honor it's been, and I mean this deeply sincerely, to be here with you this evening. Oh, that's our route. So each dot is a dot, a do one thing. Get through today. Okay, so this is when I talk about dot very briefly. Helene, waar's my brille? Okay, so we're first going to talk about the 3 whys. Why did I go and run the Great Wall of China? Tim Noakes, we all have heard of him. Don't knock his Banting story. He's a very good friend of mine. Okay. He was my coach. I had 6 people in my team coaching us to run the Great Wall. In front of TV3, this is what Tim says.
Improbable that they'll be able to complete the event for the reason that they're trying to run.
That's like Jake White as they get on the plane to go to New Zealand saying, you guys have got no chance. Okay. But what Tim didn't know, in fairness to him, was my why. So there's 3 whys. Okay, the why here was for Operation Smile. So this run, my PA at the moment is actually on a mission in Witbank doing operations, helping operations. So this run was the inauguration mission of Operation Smile South Africa. And there was an Empangeni in 2006 September, and 84 kids got the opportunity to smile for the first time in their lives. And Tim didn't know that. So when he understood the why, this is what he says. Physical challenge in an event like this is not where the outcome is decided, for the body is merely a slave to the mind. Now I want to prove that to you, to every one of you. Everyone in this room has sadly had a dream, a nightmare, let's call it. A nightmare. Arnold, I'm going to wake you up, eh? I'll show him the lies in your eyes. Okay? Okay. So, he didn't know our why. And when he found that out, that's what he wrote. The body is merely a slave to the mind. So every one of you here has had a nightmare, sadly. Indulge me. A Rottweiler is chasing you. It's about to pounce on you. You're fast asleep. You suddenly wake up and it's about to jump on your back. You wake up, you're sweating, you're huffing and puffing, and your heartbeat is elevated as though it was actually happening. Your body did not know the difference from real to not real. Now here's the next thing that Tim says. By the way, this wall doesn't stop over there. It's not greener on the other side. Okay. He continues to say, this is the start. That's where Marco Polo came into China. He continues to say, in the foreword of my book called The Great Run, and if the mind can be convinced of the value, and I emphasize that word, the value of the task. We were at the hospital. She had a cleft palate, which means the roof of her mouth is here. Cleft lip, 45-minute operation. Here, 4-hour operation. I carried into theatre. I said, I'll be there, Angel, when you wake up. This is the same girl. Look at her eyes. Look at her eyes there. This is the same girl to the day, 6 months later. 6 months later. Not because of me. Not because of me, because of Dot. Because everyone doing one thing. And one of the most humbling and precious moments of my life, her mother couldn't speak English, so through the translator, she asked the interpreter, a young little girl, would I please rename her daughter? And the word that came to mind was instantaneous. It was grace, which is Chisomo. So she is now Chisomo. So Tim now knew the why. And as much as I was suffering every day, if I could think that another child was going to get an operation, it would keep me going another day. Ons help mekaar. That's why you're here tonight. Okay, so why? By the way, Google that, Simon Sinek, and go and check him on YouTube. Simon Sinek, why? So why did I do the South Pole? It was actually to create awareness for my school, my village, my planet. This is why we did it. Because if you're just going to go up and down the mountain a few times, no one's going to notice. It was a 26-day race. They brought it down to 24 days. It was the centenary of Scott and Amundsen, so 100 years after Scott and Amundsen. And Mr. Muguye was asked to represent South Africa 3 months before the start. All of the other teams, the Norwegians, the Brits, had been training for 2 years. We still came third. We were known as the old Toppie team because I'm 25 years older than anyone else in the teams. And we helped the Brits. And again, there's the word. You help that child that has a problem, one-on-one. You'll sleep better at night. So we helped the Brits. The one guy had broken his arm. They were going to get £50,000 if they got to the pole. Not if they won or lost, but if they got to the pole. So Pete and I took who was going to row with me, took 13 kilos each off this guy's pulk. A pulk is your sled. Then we got a phone call saying the race is being pulled forward by 2 days because there's a massive storm front approaching. The plane can land and it's got to take off in a certain time. We're coming to fetch you. Everyone's disqualified. So out of the 7 teams, the Brits, by the way, put in 2 teams to level the odds. They still didn't win. Everyone was disqualified except the Norwegians, the Welsh, who lost his finger from frostbite, and us. So we're now told you've got 24 days. And you're pulling for 12 hours a day minimum. I'm not going to go into the whole story of ablutions. I'm not going to go to number 2s. Just the number 1, you've got to dig a hole and squat. Because you'll get frostbite in 10 minutes. Literally. So this is us getting to the pole. We made it with 90 minutes to spare in 24 days. That was the South Pole. It's the only neutral place on Earth. At the high plateau of Antarctica is nationless. It's not owned by any country. And when you see us standing like that, when you see us, better, sorry about that. So when you see us standing around that pole, we are genuinely, think about this, standing around the world. I've run around the world in 8 seconds. And I'm not a good runner. So just before I conclude on the last thing, I want to just bring out an example on Dot. Sitting in this room is Ridwan. Can you put your hand up, sir? Okay, so Ridwan, I hope you don't mind me reading this. I have to do this otherwise. Okay, but I know this as a fact. He was one of the first principals to say yes to partners of the possibility program. Ripple effects. Now more than 1,000 school principals are part of the program. I want to give this man a real good hand of applause. Thank you. Okay, so this is Ridwan. He's a Dot. He just did one thing. But look what happens to Ridwan's Dot. The ripple effects of your actions can reach the world. Gandhi did it. Christ did it. Muhammad did it. Hitler did it. Just don't choose Hitler as part of your team. Okay. Oh, sorry. I'm multitasking here. It's hard enough. Okay, so look at the ripple effects of Ridwan's actions. And that's what this is about. So this is the last clip. And I'm just going to end with the South African flag with what they say in Afrikaans is called houding. It started in Cape Town and it ended in Rio. And then I'll say this now. Listen to the words, particularly, as I said earlier, the last sentence. I only have one match. You are only one match. But I can make an explosion. Look what Ridwan did. Okay, so this is the last clip. Pete is rowing. How come he's rowing if there's only one seat? Because he made this breadboard for the sushi, so he's sitting on the sushi. So you're only for 2 Ks. His bum's still bruised though. 60% of a row is a leg push. 20% is a hip movement, not bending like that. Pivot, there to there. And 20% is arms. So this is where we have these boats coming out to meet us. This is a surprise. Start rowing now. We're ready for you. Listen to the words. Look at the last picture. And I hope I've touched your lives in some tiny, tiny way that enriches you.